Story 1. I would buy a used bookstore, preferably one that people rarely visit. I would go to work there every day. No one would know I had money, but I would be happy sipping coffee and tea while reading all day. I would get a little orange cat to live in the bookstore and keep me company. It would have wooden shelves overloaded with books, creating bizarre little passageways that are confusing and filled with odd decorations in random places. At the end of the maze, there would be a couple of worn but comfy chairs with doilies on the arms and a fireplace for cozy reading. I would wear soft, comfortable knit sweaters and slippers every day at work, looking eccentric and unusual. Story 2. I would open a small beachfront tiki bar and tend bar there. I would have a stage for live music, a space for a food truck with benches, and spend my days tending or hanging out at the bar without any concern for profit. Everything would be pleasant, not fancy or pretentious, just nice. Clean bathrooms, comfortable seating, and everything well maintained. The prices would be reasonable and the staff would be fairly compensated. Just a happy little haven. Story 3. Buy a large plot of land. How large? We're not sure, so let's just say large. This will be a place for unwanted dogs to retire. Story 4. It depends on the amount. If it's in the multiple millions, I would give a significant portion away. I have a fantasy where I write checks for $1 million to 100 people I know, or perhaps to 50 or just 10. Alternatively, I could write checks for $100,000 to 100 people. I would love to alleviate the economic stress from many people's lives. Story 5. A supergrafted tree. With skill and time, one can graft very similar plants together. I have always envisioned buying a citrus tree that combines lemons, limes, and oranges, possibly using clementines or mandarins instead of standard large oranges. Story 6. I'm financially conservative. I'm a saver, not a spender. However, I am buying myself a Bombay kitten and constructing the most deluxe indoor-outdoor cattery known to man. Story 7. There is a building where I live that used to be an Elks Lodge. It may still be one, but I haven't been in that part of town for years. A friend had a birthday party there, and another friend in the group attempted to enter, but the Elks Lodge staff wouldn't allow him in. They said it was because he wasn't a member, but none of us were. We knew it was due to his race. We all left and finished the party at Applebee's. I have been angry about that incident for a long time. I would buy that building and turn it into a community center or outreach headquarters for helping local and surrounding Black communities. Maybe this idea isn't so ridiculous, but I have held a grudge against that place for years, and it would bring me happiness and satisfaction to make this change. Story 8. A lot of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Then maybe I will put a jet engine in the back of a yellow school bus. Miss Frizzle, here I come. Story 9. I would create a mold of my penis and then cast it in solid gold to display it like an Oscar. It would be a real conversation piece. Story 10. I have an online wish list full of things my pets do not need, but will receive when I become successful. Story 11. Some may not find it ridiculous, but I believe it is. After my custom house is built, I will add a walk-in tub designed for older individuals. I think it would be very comfortable to sit in a large tub of hot, bubbly water. There would be no pressure to lie down, and your entire body would be submerged, which sounds nice. Story 12. I came up with a great idea for one of my friends. He is a man's man who hates technology. With my newfound wealth, I would send him on a trip, and while he's gone, I would change everything to caveman-style technology. I would remove the motor from his car and create a space for him to use his feet. I would train parrots to say, meh. It's a living instead of a remote control and do fun things like that. Story 13. I assume I won a significant amount of money, probably enough to buy an apartment in Paris for my parents and me. Story 14. I would open my own goth dance club. I wouldn't even care if it turned a profit. As long as it broke even or was really close to it, I would keep it open forever. Story 15. 10 to 15 theremins, enough to fully line a small room. I want to see what happens when I use my whole body to control all of them. It will either create really cool music or the worst discordant noise, but either way, I want to find out. Story 16. 1,000 pounds of water beads were dropped in a swift flyby with a Chinook helicopter at the Mar-a-Lago pool, just for fun. Then I might have to go on the run since the Secret Service will be looking for me. Story 17. OG Fairy Loot Red Rising Editions or the Sub-Press Editions. I'm not picky. I'm just not refinancing my house to afford those now. Story 18. I need to purchase 20 to 50 acres of land and would be willing to buy more. Additionally, I want a train to ride around the property. Story 19. It's not ridiculous, but I would buy all new camera gear. Then I would purchase a house if the winnings were sufficient. Story 20. A house for all my close friends, open a savings account for my family so they can live on the compound interest, and probably donate the rest to animal shelters. Story 21. I would buy a large school bus, decorate it and make it cozy. Then I would take a trip across the country to visit all the national parks. Anyone who is kind and friendly is welcome to hop on the bus and join the adventure. Story 22. My neighbors' houses are on all three sides, allowing us to finally live in peace and host our friends on a compound with a nice tall fence around it. Story 23. It may seem ridiculous to many, but I would be sensible. I definitely wouldn't inform my family right away. With a 3-bedroom house, hiring a nanny and a cleaner, I would be set for life. I would likely indulge in some extravagant purchases, but not immediately. Story 24. A several-month tour of the world where I can disappear immediately after winning to avoid solicitors and scam artists. I wouldn't tell anyone where I'm going. I would just go to the first place that caught my interest. Story 25. A 1975 Cadillac Fleetwood sedan measures 225.2 inches, making it the longest production car ever produced in America, excluding coach-built limousines. The parking spaces at my job are designed to accommodate 2 vehicles end-to-end, but I don't think that will work for such a large car. Story 26. The rights to several abandoned 1990s video game franchises, including but not limited to Banjo-Kazooie, Ultima, Legend of Dragoon, and Glover, will be acquired. I will hire the best people to create proper entries into their respective series, driven solely by passion rather than profit. Story 27. 365 pairs of socks, so I can wear a brand new pair every day. That day will be my annual sock day, where I buy the next year's worth of socks. Story 28. How big an opportunity for absurdity are we discussing? $10 million? I would donate to have an ice skating rink in our town on the lake. When I was a child, the city would light and plow a section of the lake, and there was a small warming hut that sold cocoa. I would turn it into a hybrid coffee shop with sandwiches and a warming area with a large fireplace. Perhaps I would also sell sweaters and mittens. I also want one of those classic wooden boats. They are very expensive but so beautiful. Story 29. A couple of trucks filled with waste arrived right in front of my ex-wife's house. Someone cut a hole in the roof and poured it in from a helicopter. Story 30. A house far away from everything. Then I would start a business and invest in various opportunities to create multiple sources of income. I would like to open a bar and dispensary, but I also want to pursue other ventures that could help others. Then I would buy a Porsche 911 GT3, a Corvette Z06, a Lexus IS 250F Sport for everyday driving, and a 1969 Corvette Stingray. For an SUV, I haven't decided yet, but I may choose a Chevrolet Tahoe or Suburban for everyday use, along with another luxury SUV like a Lexus or a Porsche Cayenne. I'm still considering my options, but I would start with that. Story 31. Every house in my current boss's neighborhood is rented out to homeless individuals, with utilities included for $6 a month, negotiable. Story 32. My partner's and sister's eBay and Amazon wish lists are bringing every random item I've considered buying my way. Story 33. First, I would call the Stanley Hotel in Colorado and book a spirited room for a few nights. Story 34. Being a fan of the price-to-quality ratio, I wouldn't quickly buy something extravagant. Wealth isn't the catalyst here, perhaps. Cats, on the other hand. Permit me to change the question, please. Humor me. You adopted a cat. What is, etc.? So many purchases turned out to be failures once the novelty wore off. Nothing too costly, but ridiculous in retrospect nonetheless. Cat donut, cat penthouse, all money wasted. Just get them a fresh cardboard box on occasion. Story 35. A collection of prepaid Visa gift cards for various amounts that I can distribute as needed, along with a security deposit box to store them. Story 36. Well, first I would pay off my mortgage and car. Then, I would hire a financial advisor to help us create a plan that divides the money into long-term and short-term investments. Finally, I would tell as few people as possible that I won. Simply ridiculous. Story 37. I am taking my family on an all-expense-paid trip to a place where we have very little to worry about, and then I will take some time to catch my breath. Story 38. One of those big transforming robot trucks or dinosaurs that you see at monster truck rallies. If I'm going to be in the news for causing a rampage, it better at least be fun. Story 39. A new yacht with all the upgrades would be a great way to travel and celebrate my newfound wealth. Story 40. It depends on how big the win is. If it's a huge jackpot, the first thing I would do is buy a house in the most upscale part of town and turn it into a free kindergarten. Perhaps I would buy another property and convert it into a boarding house. The third one would be a free rehearsal room for punk bands. Story 41. A beach house with acres right outside my favorite surf spot in Maria, Puerto Rico. I'll have a Land Cruiser, a few quads and side-by-sides, along with a brand new fishing boat waiting for me there. Story 42. Anduril, the flame of the West, forged from the shards of Narsil, the sword of Gondorian kings, is battle-ready in high-carbon steel, complete with a belt, scabbard, and display plaque. Story 43. If the lottery winner's information is public, then my first purchase would be a pile of fake movie money equivalent to my winnings so that I can publicly burn it. Story 44. Pay off my debt. Buy gold. Prepare for challenges while the current United States administration deteriorates conditions. Story 45. I want the margarita pool from The Last Man on Earth. I could make it happen now, but I would have to neglect my bills, and my neighbors would be offended. I need that sense of freedom. Story 46. I would design my dream house in Sims and feel upset when no amount of money could make it built by next Friday. Story 47. There are many sensible options available. The first noteworthy item is perhaps a 1965 F100 Restomod equipped with a 7.3-liter Godzilla engine. Story 48. Audi RS6 Avant is an impressive estate car that I have no practical need for, but I want one very much. Story 49. It depends on the winning amount. $10? Probably just another lottery ticket. $10 million? You would need the services of a lawyer and a financial planner and maybe a Porsche. Probably in that order. Story 50. I have a coworker who is really into prepping and government conspiracies. I would hire a black helicopter and a couple of blacked-out SUVs to follow him all day long. Story 51. My closest friend wants to own her own bakery, so I would call her and get one built from the ground up with her making all the decisions. Story 52. I am going to my local Mexican restaurant to get the guacamole made at the table. Costs about $15, but it always looks good. Story 53. I will go to a venue and pay 5 people to play 6 hours of the Game of Thrones board game. I will return every day with a new board game in mind. Story 54. I would buy or rent a high-end condominium and live like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2. I would purchase all the latest high-tech devices and live in isolation for weeks. Story 55. Convince the neighbor across the street from my boss to allow me to put up a billboard so my boss sees me giving him the finger every time he leaves his house. Story 56. A home for my books, where I can leave my house, spend time with them alone, and read peacefully without anyone bothering me or asking what's for dinner. Story 57. I would like to travel by first-class air to a destination and then decide where to go next by choosing from the large screens at the airport. Story 58. I am definitely getting a custom guitar made, even though I don't really play anymore. For my fellow guitar enthusiasts, I want something shaped like a Fernandez Ravel but with a nice thin profile similar to an SG. Story 59. If it was enough to live comfortably, a beach house large enough to host friends and a vintage Bronco convertible. Story 60. I'm not buying anything. I'm giving. My brother is out of his mortgage, my kids for their own use, the American Civil Liberties Union, and more. I will keep enough to be comfortable for the rest of my life, but the rest is going to good causes. Story 61. Bitcoin. Then a new car for my wife and me. Nothing fancy. That's it. I would invest the rest. I really don't need or want anything. Story 62. My local semi-professional football team aims to improve the stadium and transform it into a community asset. Installing an artificial turf pitch would allow schools and youth groups to use the facility. Additionally, creating a large function room for community events and hiring full-time coaches to offer physical education lessons in local schools would be beneficial. Story 63. Well, until today's decision, it was going to be a Scottish Highlands castle. Now, I may need to look into Ireland instead. Bonus, though, European Union citizenship. Story 64. I would create multiple comfort houses for hospice patients where families are unable to care for them at home. If I had the funds, I would do it out of goodwill. Story 65. A variety of cakes, fresh cream, strawberries, chocolate sauce, ice cream, and a large punch bowl. Perhaps a baby bath. Story 66. A big room full of beautiful fish tanks, with the walls also being fish tanks, would be perfect. My husband would love it, and our fish would be happy about the spacious environment. Story 67. This is my standard answer, but I have always wanted to slap a dolphin. They look like they would be really satisfying to slap. I would pay someone to make it happen. I wouldn't want to upset the animal, so I would ensure it is a wild adult dolphin, so the worst that could happen is it thinks, "What is this? A silly hairless ape." That is what I would spend my money on first. Then I would probably relax for a bit. Story 68. Going out to dinner with my family without checking prices and ordering whatever is a new experience for us. It's not overly extravagant, but it will be the first time we try this. Story 69. How big of a prize are we talking about? I am going to build several giant swimming pools with exciting slides. Free admission for everyone. Story 70. Gucci decor tennis table. Story 71. A compound with 3 houses surrounding a common area and a 4th bonus house featuring an indoor-outdoor kitchen, entertainment space, games, and an indoor pool. Additionally, there is a large pole barn or garage, solar panels, battery backups, generators, hedges, acreage, and privacy. My 2 best friends would move into the other 2 houses, and we would hang out and enjoy life. Story 72. Oh, this floral-printed velvet couch with the matching curtains is perfect for my $5 million home that I plan to convert into supportive housing. Story 73. I'm going to charter a private plane to Melbourne, Australia, so I can finally have my January birthday in the summer. I will invite all my friends and have a Kath and Kim-themed birthday party. Story 74. Something funny and offensive to people, like a giant statue of a penis, a giant-sized blimp shaped like a breast, or a billboard sign that says, "That's gay." I don't know exactly. Story 75. Not sure if it's considered ridiculous, but I'm going to build a train around my house, similar to the small ones you find at amusement parks. It's going to have a couple of tunnels, a small lake with animals, and when it crosses the driveway, there will be railroad signals and arms that come down until the train passes by. Story 76. A brand new vehicle. Nothing exotic, just fresh off the lot. I have never bought a brand new car, and I am 56 years old. I can afford to, but I don't mind buying low-mileage used cars and letting others absorb the depreciation of a new car. Story 77. Buy one of the wave machines like the one Kelly Slater has and donate it to a water park on the condition that I can use it whenever I want after operating hours. Story 78. Life-size fiberglass dinosaur replicas can be placed in the forest, waiting for people to discover them. Story 79. A really nice fishing boat, a 5th-wheel camper, and a powerful pickup to haul both. Now I can retire and spend the rest of my days fishing with my wife. Story 80. Membership to Spring Mountain Motor Ranch. It's a country club, but instead of golf courses, it features racetracks. It includes all the typical amenities such as restaurants, a pool, a spa, and a clubhouse, but replaces driving ranges and caddies with pits and mechanics. Last I checked, the initiation fee alone was $75,000, and all other services are additional. Story 81. I have always wanted to stroll into a car dealership and casually buy something with cash. Story 82. A comically large item to place on my mantle with a line written halfway down it labeled, Personal Record. Story 83. My private mercenary force consists of former special operations officers and some politicians as well. The amount of funding needed depends on the level of oppression and corruption I can counter with strategically and precisely applied force. Story 84. I am a car enthusiast, so I would probably walk into a Ford dealership and buy a fully equipped Ford Raptor R. I would take it to the Glamis Dunes and have an amazing time without any worries. Story 85. I would buy a new car, not anything particularly fancy, maybe a Lexus. I had sworn that I would never have a brand new car, but if I won the lottery, that would be the first rule I would break. Story 86. A house with everything it has been for so many years now in prices. I would say it qualifies as ridiculous. This is especially true for a first-time homebuyer. Story 87. I would commission an artist to create a massive oil painting of myself naked and covered in Celtic War paint, riding Mothra into battle against World War II-era Nazis. Accompanying me are Captain America, Nicolas Cage, not any character he played, just Nicolas Cage as himself, the Greek goddess Artemis, Princess Leia, and for fun, Peter from the Deadpool movies. Captain America, Leia, and Artemis are helping me fight while Nicolas Cage sits on Mothra's back, enjoying a hamburger, and Peter is just along for the ride. Story 88. I want to buy a piece of land near large forests and parks. I envision a medium-sized cabin and a spacious shared living and kitchen area. Additionally, I would like a few small cabins and campsites scattered throughout the woods for my friends and family to visit. We will have our own spaces, but there will also be a communal area for cooking and spending time together, while still allowing for individual activities. The more challenging aspect is that I prefer the location to be within biking distance of Seattle, around 40 to 60 miles, to avoid driving, which I dislike. There are numerous regional trails, and with sufficient funding, I could help connect them to facilitate access to the Centennial Trail or the Olympic Discovery Trail from North Seattle. The Palouse to Cascades Trail is another option, but I would prefer lower elevations to ensure year-round usability, although I am open to possibilities in that direction. Story 89. I am hiring a butler, specifically a highly competent individual akin to an anime butler. This person will be capable of organizing everything and accomplishing any task. I will offer an exceptional salary, a generous budget, and any necessary staff. If I forget a birthday, they will have already sent an appropriate gift on my behalf. If I am hungry, they will have food prepared. If I am in danger, they will remain calm and ensure my safety. Story 90. A Pirates of the Caribbean-style ride to get to my front door. I was drunk at Disney once, and while riding, I thought it would be awesome to have cannonballs shot at my guests. Story 91. I would go out for every meal, enjoy some drinks, and stay at a top-of-the-line hotel. I would tip everyone generously, such as giving the maid $5,000. It would be a blast. Story 92. Honestly, in a moment of self-indulgence, I considered a pair of Jordan 3 shoes. Ever since I was a kid, I dreamed of owning a pair, but I couldn't justify buying them. It's been over 25 years, and even though I could afford them, I still find myself saying, it's just a want, not a need. You have more important needs to attend to. Story 93. Isn't it ridiculous? Buy a gray 6-cylinder 1994 Camaro, then take out its engine and install an LT1 and 6-speed transmission from a 1994 Z28. Simply because I've always wanted to do that to my first car. Story 94. Selling my American citizenship. I will leave the United States and buy some land elsewhere, living out my remaining days in peace until the end comes for us all. Story 95. 3 outdoor ponds, 1 for each of my turtles. The third would be a tide pool with an epaulette shark. I would likely end up buying a bigger house to accommodate larger ponds, questioning why I purchased the initial ones. Story 96. E63 AMG Wagon. I was looking online to see what is available in my province earlier today. I love my Subaru, but that Mercedes is such a beautiful car. My husband thinks I'm strange for that. He would buy a GTR. It's cool but too flashy for me. Clearly, I will be the one taking the dogs to the cottage and doing Costco runs. Story 97. A personal chef who prepares nutritious and delicious meals that support my diet and health, except on Sunday cheat days. Story 98. I would buy a plot of land with a large fenced backyard and a medium-sized house. It would be close enough to civilization for an ambulance to reach me in a reasonable amount of time, but secluded enough so that I wouldn't see or hear my neighbors. I would spend my days adopting and caring for senior dogs, taking 3 at a time to ensure they receive all the love and attention they need and can keep each other company. I would be able to afford the treatments and medications necessary for them to live comfortably. I would have a California king bed with dog stairs so they could all sleep with me every night. I am 4 feet 11 inches tall, so we would all have enough space. Story 99. A truckload of balloons is needed. Many clowns are out there with excessive talk and they need something productive to do. Story 100. A high-quality gaming PC and a brand new smartphone. I only replace electronics when they no longer work or are more frustrating to use than not to use. Story 101. A large block of land. Build a huge underground lair with everything I ever wanted, including a home gym, an Olympic-sized pool, and a 20-car garage all below the surface. Place a small shotgun shack on top for a secret entrance. Story 102. There are many positive and sensible things I would prioritize, but the first outrageous idea? An amusement park ride called the Rotor. Story 103. A pourvoirie. They have them here in Quebec. A couple hundred acres of bushland with several lakes and a river running through them. Usually, there are small lodges spread out where you can rent a lodge and fish for a few days for a fee. I would buy a spot, build a nice home, and hire a couple of caretakers to look after the area, while I spend my days fishing different lakes on a daily basis without having to deal with other anglers. I could spend the night at other cottages when I feel like it or have friends or friends of friends stay there when they visit. Maybe I could do some private guiding for a select few. Story 104. One of those flight simulator setups for my basement features curved monitors and a chair that moves as you play the game, creating an immersive experience. Story 105. A large truck with an electronic billboard trailer where I would display unusual images of J.D. Vance. I would drive to Washington and cruise around for a few days. Story 106. I bought a large piece of land. I plan to build several 4-bedroom houses and fence the entire property. I want to invite people who have faced hardships to live there. I will create workshops, food gardens, and small buildings for various crafts such as pottery, candle making, and woodworking. I aim to provide a safe space for individuals who fear for their safety. I will hire professionals for counseling and mental health support, as well as individuals to help maintain peace on the property. Bilingual skills are required. Story 107. An isolation float tank. Shutting everything out is a godsend. And these tanks are the best way to achieve tranquility without resorting to alcohol or drugs. Story 108. I leave coffee cups on my site, and the supervisor gets really upset. At this point, I do it just to mess with him and then clean it up afterwards. So, I buy as many coffee cups as I can, get there early, and fill as many areas with coffee cups as possible, then sit and wait. Of course, I clean up afterwards and recycle. It's good fun. Story 109. My lottery plan? I aim to be an arts patron for a specific individual who will follow me around and play piano all day, creating a soundtrack for my life. Story 110. Personally sponsor Spaceship Earth at Epcot. It has really gone downhill. Half the displays do not work. There are some dated effects and dim bulbs that barely function. Remove the unattractive video displays and restore the lighting on the descending track. There are about 4 displays you are supposed to view that only have a sheet covering them. I would also reopen the space station scene at the top that has been dark for decades. It is a shame. This should be the highlight of the entire park. Otherwise, there is Remy, Frozen, and the Mexico ride, which also needs attention. It is just disappointing. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.